Good morning, everybody. Mike Niemiec here with some early morning grain and oilseed comments for this Thursday, December 6th. So anyway, we are kind of in the start of this new week of December, and once again we're still sitting on the laurels of what happened over this past week, and that being the trade talks G20 between the world, and in particular the trade talks between the U.S. and the Chinese. We had our big up move on the Sunday night trade, and now we've been pretty much pausing throughout the whole week looking for some traction on those details to see if there's any fruition from it, which still seems to be somewhat lacking. We'd have to say that a lot of the rhetoric is somewhat positive, but I think that let's see some action is what the trade really wants to see, and so we've been really stalling out through the rest of this week so far as that news goes. The only market that has gone back and filled up their gap higher opening from the Sunday night trade has been wheat. The other two are just the other two, that being grain and oilseeds, are just lingering above it. Now there could be a little bit of a fly in the ointment here. The overnight news has that where one of the lead executives at a Chinese technical firm was arrested in Canada and/or can be extradited to the U.S. potentially on violating sanctions that the U.S. has against Iran. And so now there's a big tizzy going on is the fact that this is a technology, U.S. versus China, or the trade war talks going to come to some type of halt, so on and so forth. So it gets back into this every day since the G20 meetings, before and after, actually, tweets pro and con, keeping the trade somewhat uneasy as far as really extending themselves, and thus the type of action that we've been seeing here in the marketplace not really going anywhere. So the overnight trade backing off again. We're down roughly around 7 cents in the beans, down around 50 cents to $1 in the meal, down around 20 points in the oil, 1 to 2 in the corn, and down roughly 3 to 4 in the wheat market. The funeral of yesterday kind of shut down the government and pushed news releases back a day going forward in here. We'll have our ethanol report coming out today, along with a Canadian production number. The export sales numbers will be coming on out tomorrow, and then the commitment of trade report, which everybody likes to see where the trade is standing, has been delayed until Monday. Other than that, with the G20 meetings aside, I'd have to say personally I still don't think that we're running out of grains, and/or it doesn't really change the balance sheets to in a great way what they're talking about as far as what the Chinese may or may not take. That we still have a bigger problem with us, and that being that our carryout numbers both here in the U.S. and in the world are quite large. The USDA will have their monthly USDA report coming out next week on Tuesday. The trade estimates are unchanged from a month ago, that being for U.S. corn, beans, and wheat ending stocks along with the world. And then we'll also revisit what's going on in South America. Their production numbers, it's still early, is unchanged from a month ago as well. And as far as the weather forecast for South America goes, always a need for rain, and next week both in Brazil and Argentina they're supposed to get another reprieve of rain coming on into their growing regions, so once again they remain somewhat quite satisfied. So theoretically we have the trade talks that are kind of in limbo, good news, bad news, versus two things that are still somewhat negative: the fundamental situation of world carryouts and demand being poor basically in the U.S., and then South American production, which is on course to see in somewhat maybe perhaps near a record. So with that, we continue to dwindle around watching those factors. Once again, these are my opinions, not that of ADM or ADMIS. Thank you.